The notification popped up at 3:47 a.m. Pacific time. Another upload from Ocean Dreams, the sailing channel that had captivated millions with their picture-perfect life aboard a gleaming catamaran. The thumbnail showed Sarah Martinez laughing as spray cascaded over the bow, her sun-bleached hair catching the golden light of another Caribbean sunset. The title read, "Paradise Found, Our Best Day Ever." But by sunrise, the Coast Guard would be dragging their vessel from the bottom of the channel, and the truth behind those carefully curated videos would emerge like wreckage washing ashore after a storm. This is a story that exposes the darkness lurking beneath the glossy veneer of sailing YouTube, where the line between entertainment and reality has become so blurred that creators will risk everything for the perfect shot. What you're about to discover will fundamentally change how you view every sailing channel, every adventure vlog, and every smiling face promising you that dreams really do come true. Because sometimes the most dangerous waters aren't found in the open ocean. They're hidden behind the cameras, in the desperate pursuit of views, subscribers, and the algorithmic approval that determines who lives and who disappears into digital obscurity. The story begins 3 years earlier, when Sarah Martinez and Jake Thompson were nothing more than two burned-out millennials trapped in the concrete maze of downtown Los Angeles. Sarah, 29, was a marketing executive who spent 14 hours a day crafting campaigns for products she'd never use, sold to people she'd never meet. Jake, 31, was a software engineer whose closest relationship was with the energy drink that kept him conscious through endless coding sessions. They met at a co-working space coffee shop, bonding over their shared sense that life was happening to other people, somewhere else, while they slowly dissolved into their ergonomic chairs. The catalyst came during a particularly brutal quarterly review meeting. Sarah watched her boss present her campaign ideas as his own, saw her creativity packaged and sold like any other commodity, and something inside her snapped. That evening, she found Jake staring at his laptop screen, debugging code for an app that would help people order laundry detergent more efficiently. "We're dying," she said, and he looked up with the recognition of someone who'd been thinking the same thing for months. The escape plan emerged over weeks of furtive conversations and late-night research sessions. Sailing videos filled their screens, couples who had abandoned corporate life to chase sunsets across oceans, their channels growing from hobby documentation to full-time income streams. The math was seductive. A decent catamaran could be purchased for the price of 2 years' Los Angeles rent. YouTube ad revenue, sponsorship deals, Patreon subscriptions. It all added up to a lifestyle that looked not just possible, but inevitable. "Look at this," Sarah said, showing Jake analytics from successful sailing channels. "Captain's Log has over 800,000 subscribers. They're making 6 figures just from ad revenue, not counting sponsorships." The spreadsheet she'd created detailed everything. Estimated equipment costs, potential monthly income, break-even projections. It read like a business plan, which, in retrospect, should have been their first warning sign. They liquidated everything. Sarah's 401k became navigation equipment. Jake's stock options transformed into solar panels and a water maker. Their combined savings, accumulated through years of delayed gratification and avocado toast abstinence, purchased a 2018 Lagoon 42 catamaran they christened Digital Nomad. The irony of the name would become apparent later, when the digital part consumed the nomadic adventure entirely. The first videos were authentic in a way that's almost painful to watch now. Sarah's genuine excitement as she learned to trim sail, Jake's boyish wonder at catching his first mahi-mahi, their shared laughter when everything went wrong, which was often in those early days. Their subscriber count grew slowly but steadily. 500, then 2,000, then 10,000. Comments poured in from office workers living vicariously through their escape, from fellow dreamers planning their own departures from conventional life. But growth brings pressure. and pressure breeds compromise. The first sign came 6 months in, when their video Sailing Through Paradise performed significantly better than engine troubles in Guatemala. The lesson was clear: Paradise sold, problems didn't. Gradually, the rough days began disappearing from their timeline. Equipment failures became minor hiccups that were resolved with a smile and a quick cut to the next beautiful anchorage. Arguments between them vanished entirely, replaced by the kind of constant harmony that exists only in pharmaceutical commercials. "We need to think about our brand," Sarah said during a planning session in their cramped navigation station. The word brand should have felt foreign in that setting, surrounded by charts and life jackets. But it didn't. It felt necessary, because the algorithm demanded consistency, and consistency required curation. Real life, with its unpredictable mixture of triumph and disaster, its long stretches of boredom punctuated by moments of genuine beauty, didn't translate well to 8-minute videos optimized for maximum watch time. The transformation accelerated as their subscriber count climbed past 50,000. Sponsors approached with equipment and cash in exchange for authentic product placements. Sarah became expert at working brand mentions into seemingly natural conversation. "Jake, I'm so glad we chose this windlass anchor windlass. It makes setting anchor in these pristine waters so much easier." The words flowed smoothly, but something in her eyes suggested she could hear herself saying them. Jake, meanwhile, discovered the narcotic effect of comment approval. Every video brought hundreds of responses, and he found himself refreshing the YouTube creator dashboard obsessively, watching metrics flow in real time. View duration, click-through rates, subscriber growth, numbers that had once represented abstract concepts now controlled their daily decisions. An anchorage wasn't chosen for its protection from weather anymore, but for its visual appeal. A sailing route wasn't planned around safety and comfort, but around content opportunities. By their second year, the pretense had become complete. Their lives existed in 15-minute segments, each crafted to deliver specific emotional beats designed to maximize engagement. The spontaneous sunset shots required 3 takes. The candid conversations were scripted during their morning coffee. Even their relationship had become performative, their genuine affection buried beneath layers of manufactured chemistry designed for public consumption. The pressure intensified as larger channels noticed their growth. Collaborations brought exposure but also competition. Sailing Serenity, run by an Australian couple with professional video equipment and a marketing background, was gaining subscribers faster than anyone in the space. Their secret wasn't better sailing or more beautiful locations. It was higher production values and more dramatic storytelling. Every video contained a crisis, a challenge overcome through teamwork and positive thinking. Their thumbnails featured expressions of shock and wonder that would have looked cartoonish anywhere except YouTube, where they generated millions of clicks. Sarah studied these successful channels like a graduate student, taking notes on their techniques. The key was escalation. Each video had to be more dramatic than the last. A gentle day sail became terrifying storm hits without warning. A simple engine repair became stranded 200 miles from land. Will we survive? The exclamation points weren't just punctuation. They were the mathematical symbols of algorithmic success. But reality has a way of resisting fiction, and their manufactured paradise began requiring increasingly elaborate maintenance. Equipment failures that would have made compelling, honest content were now disasters to be hidden. The day their watermaker failed, leaving them with 3 days of fresh water in tanks, became the day they staged a romantic deserted island exploration, while Jake secretly took the dinghy to shore every few hours to fill jerry cans from a marina tap just out of frame. The psychological toll was immense, but invisible to their audience. Sarah began experiencing panic attacks, triggered not by sailing dangers, but by the fear that they weren't creating enough engaging content. Jake developed insomnia, staying awake editing videos and monitoring social media metrics. His relationship with sleep disturbed by the constant anxiety that their growth was stagnating. They were living the dream they'd sold to hundreds of thousands of subscribers, but neither of them could remember the last time they'd actually enjoyed sailing. The breaking point approached during their attempt to create content around a passage through the Windward Passage between Cuba and Haiti. The area was known for rough conditions and unpredictable weather, but it offered the kind of dramatic backdrop their channel demanded. Sarah's research had revealed that several successful sailing channels had created viral content in these waters, and their subscriber growth had plateaued around 180,000, a crucial threshold for monetization opportunities. The weather window was marginal at best. Grid files showed 15 to 20 knot winds with occasional gusts to 30, seas of 6 to 8 feet with a confused swell pattern. Any reasonable sailor would have waited for better conditions, but reasonable sailors don't create viral content. The decision to depart wasn't made in their navigation station while consulting weather routing, but in their main salon while staring at competitor channels' analytics. "Look at this," Sarah said, pointing to her laptop screen. "Sailing Serenity just posted most dangerous passage of our lives, and it got 2.3 million views in 4 days. Their subscriber count jumped by 40,000. The numbers glowed on the screen like a slot machine promising jackpot. Jake nodded, but his expression suggested someone agreeing to surgery he knew he couldn't afford to refuse. The first day of their passage produced exactly the content they'd hoped for. Dramatic shots of spray cascading over the bows, Sarah laughing as she clipped herself into the harness, Jake confidently adjusting sail trim while narrating their progress. The cameras captured every moment, waterproof action cameras mounted throughout the boat, professional video equipment secured in the cabin, even underwater cameras trailing behind to capture their wake cutting through the dark blue water. But by the second day, the weather had deteriorated beyond their experience or equipment's capability. What Grib files had predicted as 20 knots was now steady 30, with gusts approaching 50. Seas that should have been 6 to 8 feet were now 12 to 15, with the confused swell pattern creating a washing machine effect that threw their catamaran around like a toy. Most critically, their position had them pinned against a lee shore with limited maneuvering room. The professional thing to do would have been to call for assistance, to swallow their pride and accept a Coast Guard tow to safety. But pride wasn't the only factor anymore. Their brand was built on competence and adventure, on the premise that they'd successfully transitioned from corporate drones to capable sailors. A rescue would have shattered that narrative, potentially destroying years of carefully constructed credibility. Instead, they decided to create content around their predicament. Sarah, despite being genuinely terrified, delivered her pieces to camera with the same enthusiasm she'd brought to reviewing their new solar panel installation. "We're definitely in some challenging conditions here," she said, having to shout over the wind while spray crashed around her. "But Jake and I are confident in our boat and our abilities. This is what adventure sailing is all about." Jake, meanwhile, was managing a crisis that the cameras weren't capturing. Their port hull had developed a small but persistent leak, probably from a through-hull fitting stressed by the violent motion. The bilge pump was running continuously, and the water level in the engine compartment was slowly rising despite his efforts. In normal circumstances, this would have been manageable, a typical maintenance issue that competent sailors address routinely. But these weren't normal circumstances, and they weren't just sailors anymore. They were content creators first, and every decision was filtered through the lens of how it would affect their channel. The rational response would have been to immediately alter course for the nearest safe harbor, to treat the leak as the serious safety issue it represented. Instead, Jake made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He decided to hide the problem from Sarah and from the cameras. He reasoned that he could manage the leak while they completed their passage, delivering the dramatic content their audience expected while avoiding the embarrassment of a premature harbor stop. The psychological pressure of maintaining their cheerful, competent facade while secretly fighting for their lives created a kind of cognitive dissonance that affected his judgment. Every few minutes, he'd disappear below decks to check the bilge, manually operate the pump when the automatic system fell behind, and stuff towels around the leaking fitting. Then he'd return to the cockpit with a smile, ready to deliver his next segment about the exhilarating challenge of their passage. Sarah, focused on managing the sails and capturing footage, didn't initially notice Jake's increasingly frequent trips below. When she did, his explanations were plausible, checking the engine, securing equipment, using the head. She was dealing with her own challenges, seasickness that she was hiding from the cameras, exhaustion from managing an overpowered sail plan, and the growing realization that they were in over their heads. By the third day, the situation had become critical in ways that neither of them fully understood. Jake's secret battle with the leak was being lost. The bilge pump, designed for occasional use, was beginning to fail under the strain of continuous operation. Water was entering faster than it could be removed, and the electrical system was beginning to show signs of moisture intrusion. But the most dangerous factor was Jake's exhaustion. He hadn't slept in over 48 hours, and his judgment was severely compromised. The final sequence of events unfolded with the terrible inevitability of a Greek tragedy. Sarah was in the cockpit, filming what she planned to be their triumphant arrival segment, when she noticed that their course was taking them dangerously close to a reef system marked on their charts. She called to Jake for a course correction, but there was no response from below. When she went to investigate, she found him unconscious in the engine compartment, overcome by exhaustion and possibly carbon monoxide from the engine that had been running continuously to power the bilge pump. The Coast Guard investigation later revealed the full scope of their situation. The leak, while not immediately catastrophic, had been steadily worsening due to the violent motion of the vessel. Jake's attempts to manage it single-handedly had been doomed from the start, but might have been successful if they had immediately sought shelter and proper repair facilities. Instead, his decision to continue filming while fighting a potentially life-threatening emergency had created a cascade of problems that ultimately proved unsurmountable. Sarah's Mayday call, captured by their onboard audio recording equipment, tells the story of those final minutes with heartbreaking clarity. Her voice, trained through years of presenting upbeat sailing content, maintained an eerie professionalism even as she described their emergency. "Mayday, mayday, mayday, this is sailing vessel Digital Nomad. We are taking on water approximately 15 nautical miles southeast of..." Her words were interrupted by the sound of their emergency bilge alarm. Then, by her own realization that Jake wasn't responding to her calls. The Coast Guard helicopter found them 47 minutes later, their catamaran listing heavily to port as water overwhelmed their damaged hull. Sarah was in the life raft, having managed to drag Jake from the engine compartment and deploy their safety equipment in the final moments before abandoning ship. Jake survived, but the lack of oxygen during his time unconscious in the flooded compartment had caused brain damage that would affect him for the rest of his life. The aftermath revealed the true cost of their pursuit of viral content. Their final video, automatically uploaded to their channel through their scheduled content system, showed Sarah smiling and promising subscribers that their amazing adventure continues tomorrow. The timestamp indicated it had been uploaded just hours before their rescue, creating a surreal contrast between their marketed reality and their actual situation. But the most chilling discovery came from their recovered hard drives, which contained hundreds of hours of footage that never made it into their published videos. The archive revealed the gradual transformation of two genuine adventure seekers into content creators willing to risk everything for algorithmic approval. Early footage showed real emotions, actual problems, authentic reactions to both the beauty and the challenges of their sailing life. Later recordings documented their increasing preoccupation with metrics, their scripted conversations, their careful staging of spontaneous moments. Most disturbing were Jake's private video logs, recorded during his overnight watches when Sarah was sleeping. These confessions revealed a man trapped in a performance he could no longer distinguish from reality. "I don't know who we are anymore," He said in one entry, filmed 3 weeks before their accident. "We're not sailors. We're not adventurers. We're just content. We've become the product we're selling, and I don't think there's any way back." The sailing YouTube community's response to their tragedy was itself revealing of the industry's dysfunction. While many creators expressed genuine sympathy and concern, others quickly pivoted to creating content around the incident. What sailing channels don't want you to know, the real dangers of sailing YouTube, and why we'll never make content like this, all appeared within days of the news breaking. The algorithm had found a new angle to exploit, and the tragedy that destroyed Sarah and Jake's lives became another opportunity for views and subscriber growth. Sarah's recovery was physical and psychological. The brain damage that Jake sustained meant that he would require care for the rest of his life, a responsibility that fell entirely on her shoulders. Their insurance, it turned out, contained clauses that voided coverage when a vessel was being operated for commercial purposes, which their YouTube monetization had legally made them. The hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills, combined with the loss of their boat and all their possessions, left Sarah financially devastated. But perhaps more damaging was the psychological toll of realizing that their entire relationship, their shared adventure, their escape from corporate life had all become corrupted by the same forces they'd thought they were fleeing. The authentic connection that had brought them together had been gradually replaced by a performance designed for public consumption. Even their private moments had been evaluated through the lens of potential content, their genuine emotions filtered through the question of whether they would generate engagement. The investigation also revealed the broader context of pressure within the sailing YouTube community. Interviews with other creators documented the same troubling patterns, the gradual replacement of authentic adventure with manufactured drama, the pressure to constantly escalate content to maintain algorithmic favor, the financial dependence that made it impossible to step back from increasingly risky behaviors. One established sailing YouTuber who requested anonymity described the psychological trap. You start sailing because you love it, and you share that love through videos. But the algorithm rewards drama, not love. So gradually, you find yourself creating drama, manufacturing crisis, staging excitement, and somewhere along the way, you realize you've stopped actually sailing and started performing sailing. But by then, it's your only income, your only identity. There's no way back. The technical analysis of their accident revealed systemic problems with how adventure content is created and consumed. The pressure to maintain an upload schedule had led them to make dangerous decisions about weather windows and equipment maintenance. Their financial dependence on consistent content creation had made it impossible to take the time necessary for proper seamanship, the boring, unglamorous work of maintenance, weather analysis, and gradual skill development that keeps sailors alive. Moreover, their audience's expectations had created a feedback loop that rewarded increasingly risky behavior. Comments on their earlier, more authentic videos often complained about boring content, while their dramatic weather encounters generated millions of views and thousands of new subscribers. The marketplace of attention had economically incentivized them to put themselves in danger, and they had responded like any other business, optimizing for market demand. The psychological profiles of successful sailing YouTubers reveal another disturbing pattern. The most popular channels are often run by individuals with backgrounds in marketing, entertainment, or content creation, rather than extensive sailing experience. Their success comes not from superior seamanship, but from better understanding of how to package adventure for digital consumption. This creates a situation where the least qualified sailors often have the largest audiences, spreading dangerous misinformation disguised as expertise. Sarah's current life serves as a sobering counterpoint to the fantasy sold by sailing YouTube. She lives in a small apartment in Portland, working as a freelance social media consultant, a cruel irony that isn't lost on her. Her days are spent managing Jake's care and dealing with the ongoing financial consequences of their maritime disaster. The dream boat is gone, the adventure is over, and the cameras have stopped rolling, leaving behind only the unglamorous reality of consequences. In quiet moments, she sometimes watches their old videos, searching for the moment when their authentic adventure was replaced by manufactured content. I think it happened so gradually that we didn't notice, she reflects. One day we were sailors who happened to make videos. The next day we were video creators who happened to own a boat. And by the end, we were just performers trapped in a show we couldn't stop performing. Tragedies. The broader implications extend far beyond sailing YouTube into the entire creator economy. The platform's algorithmic reward system consistently favors dramatic content over authentic experience, short-term engagement over long-term value. This creates an environment where creators are economically incentivized to exploit their own lives for content, to transform their genuine experiences into performative spectacles designed for maximum viral potential. The tragedy of Sarah and Jake's story isn't just personal, it's systemic. They were two genuine people who fell into a digital trap that transforms authentic human experience into commodified content. Their accident was the inevitable result of a system that rewards risk-taking, dramatization, and the gradual replacement of real expertise with performed competence. The sailing community has begun to grapple with these issues, but change comes slowly to an industry built on algorithmic optimization. Some creators have started including detailed safety discussions in their videos, acknowledging the real risks and unglamorous realities of sailing life. Others have stepped back from monetization entirely, returning to the authentic documentation that originally inspired their channels. But the fundamental tension remains. Authentic sailing involves long periods of routine maintenance, careful weather analysis, and conservative decision-making that doesn't translate well to dramatic content. The economic pressures of content creation continue to reward those willing to manufacture drama, to take unnecessary risks, to prioritize entertainment value over actual seamanship. The legacy of digital nomad serves as both warning and wake-up call. Behind every perfectly curated sailing channel lies the same human vulnerability that destroyed Sarah and Jake's lives. The smiling faces promising endless adventure are often hiding the same pressures, the same compromises, the same gradual transformation from authentic adventurers into content performers. As you watch these channels, as you dream of your own escape to the sea, remember that the most dangerous waters aren't found in storm-tossed oceans. They're found in the space between authentic experience and algorithmic performance, where real lives are slowly consumed by the insatiable appetite of digital engagement. The true dark side of sailing YouTube isn't the hidden tragedies, it's the systematic transformation of genuine human adventure into commodified content, one carefully optimized video at a time. The notification alerts keep coming, promising new adventures, new dreams, new escapes from ordinary life. But now you know what lurks beneath those sun-drenched thumbnails and those perfectly timed sunset shots. The price of viral sailing content isn't just measured in views and subscriber counts. It's written in the wreckage of authentic human experience, traded away one click at a time for the algorithmic approval that never quite satisfies, never quite fills the void where genuine adventure used to live.